Good evening, everyone.
And in Tibetan, Tashi Delek. The piece that we're going to read is something that came about quite naturally during one of our sessions and is self-explanatory. The title is
No one can get diarrhea.
I was disappointed when Paldon told me she wouldn't be able to meet me for a writing session a few weeks ago. She told me she had to go to JFK Airport with her family to meet new Tibetan relatives.
My family and I woke up at dawn to pick up the relatives coming from India, my uncle's wife and her 2 sons. The weather was cold but bearable. They landed at 6:30 a.m., but the long process in the airport took them about 5 hours to enter the U.S. legally. They looked weary and frazzled. While handing me his camera, my uncle quickly rushed over to the new arrivals to place over their necks the Tibetan ceremonial scarf symbolizing purity and compassion.
When I next met Paldon, I asked, "Where are the new arrivals staying?" And she answered, "With us in the Bronx." I knew that there were Paldon's 5 family members living in a 2-bedroom apartment. I next asked, "How many bathrooms?" The answer was 1. Without thinking, I said, "No one can get diarrhea." I was thinking practically and from the point of view of a spoiled American. After all, many people live without indoor plumbing in the world, even in America. Yes, my response was not well thought out, but impulsive and funny to me at the moment. I remembered when I was a child, visitors from out of town came to stay with my parents. At the time, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with 1 bathroom. One of the guests was an elderly man with a long white beard. I was upset and burst out crying when I found a long white hair in my favorite fingernail brush in the shape of a boat. My mother tried calming me by explaining the rules of hospitality. And this didn't make an impression on me. I had to give up my bed and sleep on the floor in rolled-up blankets. I felt that I had made my contribution to hospitality.
Long before their arrival, I remember Tenzin, 11 years old, as a quick and inquisitive kid. He was still the same kid. Even before greeting us, he was experimenting, touching, and looking around the airport. He never stopped leaving me in awe. Long before their arrival, my aunt had told me that they would live with us. I knew 3 additional people to the 5 already living in the apartment would minimize the privacy and space, but I was actually excited. The room that my brother and I shared would now turn into a room of 4 people with 2 beds. Thankfully, we had double-layer beds. Sometime after we reached home, Tenzin kept nudging me to take him out to play. I had to go do my laundry, so I took him to the laundromat. He was so eager to push the cart, I took him to the park while he played with the empty cart in the snow. On the first day of Tenzin's school, I had to pick him up at 3 p.m. I was worried the other kids might have teased him since he barely spoke English. But that was not the case. While he was coming out the entrance, he was gleefully jumping. He had an orange in his hand, and I asked, "How come you have an orange?" He said, "I went to the kitchen and the lunch ladies offered me one." He had a pleasant day. At home, he began amusing us by telling us how he used hand signs to communicate with the teacher. When I entered school in America, I would observe the students and be amazed by their behavior, talking back to teachers, bad handwriting, and rudeness. In Tibetan culture, we value generosity and compassion. Tibetans are steadfast believers of compassion and altruism, a philosophy well taught by Tibet's spiritual leader, the 14th Dalai Lama.
Ideas of hospitality vary between cultures. In Judaism, there's a saying, "Save one life, and it is as if you have saved the world." And this originated in the Talmud. I was a child during the Holocaust, and my parents saved many people, not only family members. But I heard stories about this. I never shared a room or bathroom with anyone beside my mother and father. I'm sure ideas of hospitality and saving people goes beyond Tibetan Buddhism and Judaism.